Howdy y'all, it's Curious Raven. I hope y'all are doing okay, and I hope everyone that was in the path of Helene is doing okay. I'm in Orlando, Florida, and we barely got anything, just some wind, branches in the yard, a little bit of rain. But today I'm going to read 7 haunted house stories, and I hope y'all enjoy. Number 1. Last night I woke up to my bed shaking, and I just assumed it was someone waking me up, but right as I woke up properly, I heard like a sort of grunt, like when someone older is hopping out of bed. It was like a deep older man's sort of grunt, and then after that I heard footsteps all around my room. After I looked around my room, I rolled over to go back to bed. And I would say after like 30 seconds, I heard a loud bang outside my window. I then got up for work at about 1:40 a.m. and my dog was outside at the door, looking physically scared. I've asked my family if they heard any bangs or anything at all, and they all said they heard absolutely nothing. Am I going insane? Has anyone had this happen to them? Like a similar experience? Can someone try explaining this to me? Like, it's kind of freaking me out, not gonna lie. Number 2. So when my mom was a kid, they moved to this farm and my grandparents still live there. Anyway, my mom and everyone else would experience the same thing. Like she told me that she would hear running around upstairs and doors slamming and kids laughing. And there was this one time when her radio was on and she tried to change the radio station, but it wouldn't change. So she unplugged it and it was still on. And another one was my mom and her parents, and these 2 guys were all sitting at the table, and my mom and her parents were talking about how the house is haunted. And one of the 2 guys was like, "Bullshit, this place ain't haunted." And then the fan stopped, like it came to a halt and started spinning the other direction. And the 2 guys ran out of there as fast as they could. Recently, my mom told me she found out a man actually died in that house. And once my mom moved out, my grandparents said it all stopped. Number 3. So when my dad was younger, he used to live in El Paso, Texas, before moving here up north. But nothing there was this like manner he told me about. It was him, his cousin, my older cousin, which is also his nephew, and my grandma. So anyway, his cousins acting all brave decided to get a camera with them and took some pictures, and my dad saw like it was someone holding a lantern walking down the stairs in the manor. And mind you, they were outside of the manor and they think someone is going to come out the door and tell them to get off the property. But then the lantern disappears. Then they go look at the pictures of the house and they didn't see any lantern or anything. Yes, later my grandma went back to go and look at the house and it still looks brand new, like when she was just as a kid. Weird, huh? Number 4. I wouldn't consider this a paranormal thing, but it's still freaky, in my opinion. So I moved into a new house like a half a year ago with my dad and my younger brother. I got the room that was upstairs, and it's the only room that is upstairs because the stairs lead just to my room. Like 3 months pass, and my dad says to me, "I believe that a ghost is in your room." So obviously I'm like, "Boy, what?" So after he told me that, my room had a different type of energy. Nothing would go on in my room for like the first year. The only thing weird about it is that there is this one corner that feels like something is there. Like all the energy is in that one corner. So a year passed, my dog starts to look in the corner a lot. Like a whole bunch. Sometimes he would be under the blankets and randomly jerk up and run out of the blankets just to sit down and look at the corner with his ears perked up. Later, only at night, I would hear these knocking noises in my walls, which scared me. I started to believe more and more that the ghost is real until today, January 26th, 2024, convinced me 100% that this ghost is real. It was like 7:30 p.m. and I went into my closet to get a shirt, and there was a full breeze in there. And mind you, that there isn't a fan or any vents. So my mind went like, what is happening? I go out of my closet and shut the door and lay down on my bed. I'm on my phone while watching a show, and then I hear my closet doorknob move. I look over and it was literally turning by itself. It was doing that for a hot 5 seconds and then it stopped. After that, I freaked out and just remembered, oh yeah, there's a ghost in my room. But after that, I'm convinced that it's real and my dog can see it. I would also like to add that one night when I was falling asleep, something pulled my ear, like it was trying to get me out of bed. I know I didn't imagine it because it felt way too real. Number 5. Of all the spirits I've crossed paths with in my life, there are 2 of them that have been seen by many of my friends and acquaintances across the globe. These separate entities seem to have appeared to many people I know since their childhoods. They always appear as, respectively, a young woman in a white nightgown with long, greasy black hair, and a tall, Victorian-seeming man with a black cloak, a hat, and occasionally red eyes. My ex, living in Texas, once saw the woman when he was a child. He woke up one night, sleeping in the same room as his sister, to find the woman standing over him, leaning down into his face and watching him. He remembers that he thought it was his mother. His sister saw the spirit too. A friend of mine living in Alaska saw her when she was a child. The woman rushed through the room and disappeared. This friend, too, thought the spirit was her mother. As for the man, he's appeared to my friends in England and Canada, as well as to me here in the U.S. He always just stands there and watches you from his tall height. I have a theory that he's the spirit Jack the Ripper. Has anyone else ever seen either of these spirits or heard of them? Who are they? Number 6. Back in the late 1980s, I rented a basement apartment in Rochester, New York, in a building called the Wilmot. The building was a mansion designed in the antebellum style. When it was constructed, it was owned by one of the founders of Western Union. The family was happy there until their eldest son drowned in front of his father's eyes. At this time in Rochester, the Faucked sisters, Leah, Maggie, and Kate, had just started the spiritualist movement and began performing seances. It is rumored they regularly performed seances and had seances party at this same address. Fast forward to 1989. My one-bedroom basement apartment was located at the front of the building. The parking lot was located in the rear of the building. When I parked in the parking lot, I would enter the building, go down the stairs, into the basement, and walk the length of the building, past storage units and a sauna, to the back entrance of my apartment. The mansion was very large, so this was about a minute walk. I walked the length of the building every night, since I always parked in the lot. One night the lights weren't working in the basement. It was spooky, but I didn't care, because I had made the walk so many times before. As I walked through the dark basement, I could hear laughter. I thought it was some people using the sauna. But as I got closer to the back door to my apartment, the sound of the laughter got louder. It sounded like a party. I could hear glasses clinking and the sound of silverware on china. When I got to the back door of my apartment, it sounded like the party was right inside my apartment. I thought I had left my TV on. I put my key in the lock and turned the knob. And then the noise just stopped. I entered the storage area to my apartment, and it smelled like roses and lilies. When I walked into my apartment, everything was quiet. I hadn't left the TV or the radio on. It was dead silent. I had interrupted the ghost party. Number 7. I was born in a Victorian terrace. Had mom, dad, 2 older brothers. When I was about 7, I was walking down the attic stairs. They were in a spiral. When I turned to face the landing, I saw an old man leaning against the banisters about 2 meters in front of me. He had blood down his face and on his shirt. My parents told me that they knew about him. We would see him walking across the landing from the living room. You could see the entire upstairs landing from downstairs. He would noisily walk down the attic stairs most nights. Every step had a distinct sound. Our neighbors saw him once when they came around. Dad asked a man across the street who lived there his whole life about the history of our house. He said that before us, an old couple lived there. The woman died, and the man had become an alcoholic. One day, a neighbor found him outside the door. He tripped up the curb and smashed his head. He helped him in and put him in a chair and left him. He was found a week later, having bled to death. There's loads more, but I had to condense it. Alright, that's the end of this little collection of stories. I hope y'all enjoyed. I love y'all so much. I will see you tomorrow. But until then, remember, it's scary out there. Please like and subscribe.
Howdy y'all, it's Curious Raven. I'm sorry I have been on a hiatus for about 2 weeks, but I had a lot going on. My health, my kids, their health, and we got a new cat. My husband actually let me get a cat, y'all. She is 10 years old and her name is Ladybug, and we love her so much. Today we have 5 stories for you. I hope you enjoy.
Okay, gonna be a long one. Sorry. So back in 2014, my family and I, me, mom, stepdad, 2 stepbrothers, moved into this big old house as a blended family. It was already the perfect horror movie house, on the edge of town, opposite a cemetery, 200 to 300 years old roughly, and it backed onto an abandoned NHS hospital building. We're in the UK. Anyway, we lived there for about 4 years until we moved to our current house, only a 2-minute walk away. But ever since we lived there, I cannot stop thinking about all the weird shit that went down. I've even gone as far as contacting local archives, etc. for information on the property. I guess I'm just asking if anybody has any guesses of WTF was going on there. It was absolutely horrendous, and I still have to drive past it literally every day. I'll try and do some vague bullet points of the general instances. Number 1, our first night in the house. Our garden, as I said, backed onto an abandoned, ruined hospital property with grounds, etc. Only our garden fence separated this from us. The first evening that we lived in the house, my brothers and I created a makeshift football goal out of logs balanced against a tree at the bottom of the hospital garden. We messed around for a bit, got bored, and went off amongst the hospital buildings to explore. We were only gone for less than an hour, but when we came to go home and walked past our goalposts, somebody had gathered all the sticks and logs and placed them into these super neat and accurate piles. Sounds stupid, but there's no way the logs could have fallen that way. We were so freaked out that our parents ended up telling us it was them who did it, but they admitted years after that it wasn't them, and they were equally freaked out. Number 2, the plant. Okay, so next, my mom and stepdad were gifted a plant when they got married. One day they were kind of pissed off at me and my brothers and said, "Stop watering that plant. It doesn't require regular watering and you'll kill it." My brothers and I were fairly young and frankly didn't even know what plant they were talking about. Few days passed and our parents got really annoyed. They told us the plant was dying, and we really had to stop it. It even went as far as them moving and hiding this plant in different locations. Nothing worked, and the plant died. My brothers both swear to God, even now, that it wasn't them. I truly believe it wasn't. Number 3, my brother walking past my mom. Okay, so the next one, my mom was stood in my bedroom doorway, chatting to me, and she saw my younger brother, a figure, walk from his room at the end of the hall into the bathroom. All cool? Except then she went downstairs, and my 2 brothers and stepdad were all sat on the sofa watching football together. She doesn't believe in any paranormal stuff at all, but she was so freaked out by this. Number 4, general constant stuff. So as well as key moments like this, there are way too many to list in one post. We had our 2 dogs, super well behaved, but would act weird in this one spot in the garden. They'd snarl and then cry and whine and lie down as though someone was screaming at them every damn night. I also had a wooden sign on the back of my bedroom door. We had no windows at all in the upstairs hall at all, old house, so no way for a draft. But every night after midnight, the sign would bang against my door as though someone was knocking. I don't know. Sorry for the long post, and I have loads to add if anybody is interested. Someone please answer, though. I'm always thinking about it all. I don't know how to start this, but whenever I go to sleep at night, almost all nights, I hear footsteps in the above house. No one lives there. It has been in commercial office the entire time. I have seen it open only a few times, and no one is up there at night. It's empty. All the people go home by 7 p.m. But almost every night around 2 a.m. I hear the footsteps. Even if there are people in the daytime there, we never hear those footsteps in the daytime. It's always at night. I haven't told this to anyone at home or asked them if they hear the same thing. Every time I go up near the office, I have this weird negative feeling and something telling me not to go any further. Does anyone know how can I just stop the sound of these footsteps? There has been a psychic at our home some months ago who told us there is some kind of spirit here. I have had some ghostly experiences at home as well. The last time I remember, I had got up at night to have some water. I went to the kitchen, drank the water, and kept the glass on the kitchen platform out of nowhere. When I kept the glass down, after a few seconds the glass was vibrating and moving towards me. I got scared and just put the glass back to where I originally kept it before. After that, I just went and slept with my mom out of fear. I, 20 female, am living with my roommate, also 20 female, in an older house we're renting out. Its small southern house does a complete circle. It's made of old wood and was built in the 1800s. Was a family home to our landlord. When we first moved in, everything was fine. Nothing had happened, and the house felt cozy. However, recently some very odd things have been happening. Example 1, my roommate was home alone taking a shower. I was at my boyfriend's house. She then called me to ask if I was home, saying she heard me speak to her. Both of the doors to the bathroom had been opened, which were before closed. She was obviously freaking out. Example 2, I was home alone and my roommate was at her boyfriend's house. I was folding laundry in our living room and then heard a car door slam shut and our porch door slamming shut. So I walked into our room thinking they were going to kiss goodbye and to give them some privacy. I was cleaning when I got a call from her saying she was on her way home, which was an hour later from when I heard the car door as well as the porch door. Example 3, I was coming home from work when she called me asking if I bought drumsticks. For literal drums, I had not. Apparently, there was one just sitting in the middle of the living room floor. Example 4, I work night shifts, 7 to 7. My roommate is home alone at night. She says she'll hear people talking, but it sounds far away. One morning, I woke up and sat at the edge of my bed, rubbing my eyes, getting ready to walk to the bathroom. It was still dark outside and my lights were off. All of a sudden, an object, the shape of a ball, hit my left foot. I call it an electric ball because as soon as it hit my foot, I heard the sound of electricity. The size of the ball was about half the size of a tennis ball. No, I did not see the electric ball with my own eyes, but if a ball-like object drops on your bare foot, you can easily recognize its shape and size if it's a ball-shaped object. After it dropped on my foot, it rolled on the carpet towards my bedroom door. How do I know this without actually seeing it with my own eyes? I felt the vibrations on my foot of the ball moving on the carpet, which, I assume, proves that the ball wasn't very lightweight, but had a bit of weight to it. I believe someone was standing beside me or in front of me and dropped the electric ball on my foot. This is the vibe have. Good thing the electric ball didn't shock me. LOL. For context, a day ago, I was in my mother's room. In this room, she has a huge mirror the size of the entire room. When I went into the room and went to turn the light on before turning it, I looked into the mirror and saw a black figure in the room. When I saw it, I turned the lights on and off to see if it was maybe my shadow, but it wasn't there and went away. Today something happened in my mother's bathroom too. I was in there with my sister 'cause we were searching for something, and we both heard a woman's voice. We couldn't tell what it said, but it felt someone said it right beside my ear. Sorry if I suck at explaining, and I know I kind of sound slow, but is this something bad? A malevolent ghost? Or is it harmless? Someone please help. I'm kind of freaked out. Thank you.
Okay, that's it for today. Love y'all so much. I will see y'all this coming week. Until then, remember it's scary out there. Please like and subscribe.
Howdy, y'all. It's Curious Raven. I hope y'all have had a great week. Today, I'm going to read a collection of stories for you. Hope you enjoy. Number 1. This is not my story. I'm simply sharing it because it's intriguing. Spring break of 2010. My buddies and I decided to camp out on an island at a local lake. One night, as we were cooking food and drinking beer, a canoe floats by with one guy in it. He asked how we were doing, and we invited him to our island for grilled meat and beers. Being in South Arkansas, we naturally assume that everyone is friendly and wants to hang out. His name was Kurt, and he was super friendly, but really seemed to be sad. We asked him what was up, and he replied, "Oh, nothing really. It's just that my friends are probably worried about me." He looked at me and winked. You'll find out soon enough. That still haunts me to this day. Everyone liked Kurt, and noticing that it was getting dark and he had been drinking, we offered to let him stay with us that night. He declined, saying that he had to get to where he was going, and he seemed very adamant about that. I asked where he was heading, thinking maybe we could give him a ride on a jet ski or something. Kurt ignored the question and said, "You boys don't know how lucky you are." He hopped into his canoe and left. We didn't think much about it. The next morning we woke up early to do some fishing. As we're fishing, a police boat pulls up. The officer asked if we were part of the search party that found the body. We obviously have no clue what he's talking about, so he tells us a story about a young man in a canoe that disappeared last week. Apparently, divers found his body at the bottom of the lake 2 days before. The young man's name was Kurt Clark. This was so freaky for us that we all packed up and left camp that day. The above is one of the witnesses' testimonies as to what they experienced. Below is an online newspaper article with information about the deceased. Hot Springs searchers on Monday recovered the body of a teenager who drowned when his canoe capsized on Lake Ouachita last week. They found the body of Curtis Peyton Clark, 19, in about 43 feet of water around 3 p.m. after previous attempts to locate the corpse failed. Garland County Sheriff spokesman Lieutenant James Martin said that Clark was from Helena, West Helena. He and a friend were in the water last Thursday during windy weather, which caused the canoe to capsize about 200 yards from shore. Both tried to swim to safety, but Clark went under. Number 2. Growing up, my mom was a part of a ghost hunting group
that would investigate old buildings and homes owners reported haunted. She had 2 major prize findings that kind of made everyone question, what the hell? One was a little girl looking for her mom on an audio. I think the tape recording was placed in an attic in a home somewhere mid-state California. The second finding was a picture she took down a hallway of an old restaurant hotel, and in the picture you can see a waiter clear as day with an old uniform on, like the white shirt, black vest, big mustache kind. The restaurant hotel is called the Springville Inn in Springville, California. When I was very young, like 5 to 7, I would see this lady in my house I grew up in, but she was always in the corner of my vision. When I would try to look directly at her, she would disappear. But when I'd look away, she would reappear in the same spot, or maybe somewhere else in the corner of my vision. She had brown hair to her shoulders, wore a green turtleneck long sleeve, blue jean pants, and brown boots. However, her face was blacked out almost. It's kind of hard to explain, but her face was almost like a shadow I couldn't see. Every time I saw her, I would get scared until a couple of years later, I saw her while I was eating ice cream on the couch and watching TV. I took a big bite and saw her and froze. I immediately told myself, I'm not scared, I see her all the time, and nothing happens. She's harmless or not real. Then when I went for a second bite, she moved for the very first time and started walking to me. I ran and screamed bloody murder to my parents' bedroom. I didn't see her again after that. Fast forward to my 6th grade self. My parents started a pretty shitty divorce. It was a lot of yelling and fighting. But that's when it was the worst in that house. Now everyone is experiencing something, and I think that the negativity from the divorce was triggering it. My dad experienced 2 significant experiences. One was seeing a clearly dead, rotting girl standing behind my mom, and he completely screamed and ran out of the house, left all of us in there. The second was he was sleeping on the couch and supposedly got punched in the face. My brother and his friends heard walking on our ceiling that stopped right above their heads. I heard knocking on our walls and a china cabinet door panel. Then I was sleeping on the couch when something grabbed my toe and woke me up, and as soon as I laid my head down, I was dragged from the arm of the couch. We moved shortly after that. None of my friends or brothers' friends wanted to even come in the house from their own experiences. Fast forward to my mom's apartment in the 8th grade. I never experienced something there, but I can remember. However, one morning my mom asked me if I had ever seen or heard anyone in the house when I was sleeping on the couch. I said, no, why? She said, never mind. I kind of flipped out because if someone was in the house, I need to know about it, especially if I'm just passed out on the couch. She said that she woke up from her bed with shaking almost like an earthquake. She thought at first, and then she said she seen a shadow man standing in her doorway. She rolled over and grabbed a screwdriver on the nightstand, but then he was gone. She then cleared the house with the screwdriver and nobody was there and the doors were all locked. Fast forward to high school. I'm pretty much living at my buddy's house. We pretty much just had multiple experiences of banging on the walls, and we would bang back, kind of messing with whatever it was. When we would drink and take a pee break, both bathrooms in the house shared a wall, so we would bang on the wall trying to mess with each other. One day, when we weren't drinking, I went to pee, and he was in the garage, and then I heard banging on the wall, so I banged back. And I heard footsteps running down the hallway. I then confronted him laughing, asking why he ran down the hallway like a little kid. He said he never went inside, and that he was in the garage the whole time. But I didn't believe him. A few weeks later, when I was in the living room, he came out of the bathroom asking me the same question. I told him I was sitting in the living room the whole time. He didn't believe me. told me to quit lying until one day we were both in the living room and his girlfriend at the time walked out of the bathroom asking what the hell is our problem. Both of us, super confused, asked what she was talking about. She said, "Don't act stupid. One of you banged on the door, then tried to open it and ran down the hallway like a little kid." Me and my buddy, then in total shock, looked at each other like, holy shit, you weren't lying. Fast forward to recently. I'm now 25 with a family of my own. My wife and I hear running up and down the stairs when my kids are sleeping. Then one night, a couple months ago, I woke up to a man standing at the foot of my bed. I jumped up and ready to beat the shit out of this dude, but as soon as I jumped up, he was gone. I cleared the house and no one was there. I looked up on Google what I saw to see maybe I was just lucid dreaming. Nope. My heart went into my ass when I saw thousands of people saw the exact same man. When I saw a picture of him, it was exactly what I saw at the foot of my bed. The Hat Man. Never even heard of this thing before, and the way I hear about him is seeing him, then finding out thousands of other people have seen the same exact thing. What do you guys think is going on? Why am I experiencing so much stuff? Number 3. 1. So, when me and my sister were young, we would leave the doors wide open, but then we would check back and they were closed. Number 2. Moving over to my sister a little more recently, she met a person who was pretty spiritual. She has now become my sister's best friend. Recently, my sister has been using incense, but never went far into any spiritual stuff. And when she was going to go out to the local Circle K, she saw what she thought was a tweaker. When she got closer, however, the figure was still completely dark. It was about 7 o'clock in the evening early this year. She said the figure appeared to be a boy with a haircut that looked similar to a haircut of Cole from the show Anne with an E. The figure walked into the forest. My sister searched on Reddit and found out it was called a shadow person. Number 3. This has been recent and older times for me. I've been putting my stuff outside on spots, and when I look back, it's on the ground. The place where I live, a lot of Native Americans were killed. And I guess the one outside is just mad that he got killed and slapped stuff. Number 4. The door ghost is back. I mean, at the time of writing this, I just got hit with a swirl of air as my bathroom door slammed. I asked my sister, the only other person in the house, if it was not her, but I guess the ghost is friendly because it closes the door for us. And yes, I do think it's the same one that we had all that time ago. I don't know where the hell it went for 8 years, but it's back. And I hope it stays because I leave doors open a lot. Update. We definitely have a ghost. My sister heard the dogs in the garage barking violently. And when she was going upstairs, she heard footsteps on the stairs. This is when she came into my room and told me about this. We went downstairs with our Pit Lab mix cache and found nothing. However, when we went back up, we heard the door gate at the start of the stairs making a noise behind us. The noise it made can only be made when it shakes. So, some ghost is definitely following us. We did the whole thing on telling it to leave us alone and whatnot, but I'm currently in her room with her scared shitless. Number 4. We have lived in this house for 9 years without any weird issues. 6 months ago, we moved my mother-in-law in because my father-in-law had just passed away. My mother-in-law was going through chemo and needed extra help. It was a roller coaster ride, plenty of ups and downs. The last week was an unexpected downward spiral and she passed away November 7th. Since then, our lights are turning on and off on their own accord. The dog-shaped hand sanitizer holder from the Bath and Body Works belonged to my mother-in-law keeps barking, and some bagels from the pantry fell across the room, landing a good 3 feet away. I don't get bad vibes, nothing negative. We know for certain it's my mother-in-law, but my concerns are, number 1, is she stuck? She was fighting like hell to beat cancer and afraid she is still in the refusal state. Number 2, is she trying to tell us something? She's very obviously trying to get our attention. How do I listen better? I just want the best for her. I don't want her to be stuck in a weird limbo. I'm worried. How do I make sure things are okay? Alright, that is the end of this collection of stories. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I love y'all so much. I will see y'all next week sometime. But until then, remember it's scary out there. Please like and subscribe.
Howdy y'all, it's Curious Raven. This is a Appalachian horror story. I am putting this on Curious Raven's Thoughts segment. It is number 7. It is more of me telling the story, not really giving much advice, and just kind of talking about it after. It is by No Preparation 1870, and it's called Appalachian Horror. I figured the best way to start this is by stating that this is a series of events that I have experienced throughout my 27 years of life in the Appalachian region of the rural Southwest Virginia. Some have just been feelings, while others have left me unstable to be outside after dark, which, as many of you may know, is something that you never do when you live as deep in the mountains as I do. First, I will go back as far as I can remember to when we had just started living in the house that we still currently live in. In the grand scheme of things, our house really isn't all that old. If I remember, it was built somewhere around the 60s to 70s, so really not that old. When my grandparents bought the house and we moved in was when the experiences started happening. They weren't bad experiences, don't get me wrong. Mainly things being moved, shadows out of the corner of the eye, strange smells and sounds, but nothing I would call bad, just strange. My mother and father had moved a trailer onto my grandparents' property at that time as well, and my mother, unlike my granny and myself, is very much a skeptic. I vaguely remember her always brushing off Granny, telling her about the strange smells and other things happening around the house, until one day she was by herself at the trailer. My brother and I were at school, Granny was at work, and my pawpaw was most likely in his recliner at the house. Something to know about where the trailer sat at the time and the land we own. We own a few acres of land with a creek running about halfway through it, splitting the land that we lived and worked on from the land that was almost entirely mountainside. The trailer was sat at the very edge of the property by the creek. There was about half an acre of land between the house and the trailer, and my mother, who was home alone, started smelling a man's aftershave. Could potentially mark that up to my father, except my father didn't wear anything like that when he was alive. Not that he didn't like it, that stuff just never smelled good to him. Granny always said that smell goods always rotted on your daddy, even as a baby. So it wasn't my father. My pawpaw was in the house at the other end of the property, and she just couldn't figure out where this clove-like smell was coming from. Things went on like that for a long time. Objects being moved, the smell of a man's aftershave, all of it. Finally, and I don't know what prompted it, my grandparents decided to get the house wiring checked out. Turns out that the house had been wired with the same kind of wires that were used in coal mines, and a lot, if not most, of the wires were bad. Strangely, once the wiring was fixed, all the strange happenings in the house and property stopped. Granny still says to this day that the previous owner was looking out for us. Now, we're going to skip forward a few years. By this time, my mother has divorced my father, given up custody of me and my brother to our grandparents. I'm still at the age where playing outside in the dirt and creek is the most fun of a southern child can have, and I have made myself a little place across the creek and a little thicket to play in.
It was a good quiet place for a child to play and was good for a while. There's always a feeling that comes with being watched, different feelings to being watched, and this feeling I got, even as a child, was not a welcoming nor friendly sort of watching. I never found out what it was, nor have I gone back to that little spot I used to play in. Even approaching the area I used to play in gives me such a sense of dread and apprehension that I have never been able to shake. A few years later, my brother and I are living with my mother and her new husband. A mistake now that I look back on, but that's not post for here. I wanted to decorate my new room. So we went to the local flea market where I bought a clock and a painting to hang up in my room. Now, before these items entered the house, it was just a normal house. Afterwards, doors opening on their own, items being moved, my cat refusing to leave my side, my things gone missing, only to show up in the other rooms, sleep paralysis, tall dark shadow moving in the corner of my eye, voices. It was awful, and a time in my life I never want to revisit. I distinctly remember laying in bed with the cat. My light was on. I had my CD player blaring music, the usual teen things, when out of nowhere, it felt like something kicked the edge of my bed. I'm not talking a light kick, like something trying to get my attention. I'm talking hard enough to scoot my bed several inches to the side. There were nights when I'd be laying in bed, my door cracked, 'cause of course I had the room with no windows, and I have always had a slight fear at pitch black. I'd be laying there on my side, so my face was facing the door. Now, something to know about me is that I have awful vision. Without my glasses, I can only see clearly a few inches in front of my face. This doesn't mean, however, that I can't see movement. I believe that it is far more terrifying to only be able to see a dark blur moving towards you than to clearly see what the blur is. We didn't stay long in that house and was forced to move not long after, and during the move, I was forced to leave the clock behind, and oddly enough, the strange happening stopped. Now, we skip a bit more forward in time. I'm an adult now, and I've had more experiences now that I'm back in my hometown in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains. Everything from hearing a woman outside in the middle of the night in January calling, "Hello?" over and over, to being outside at night smoking and getting the overwhelming feeling that I didn't get inside immediately that something would attack me, to the crickets outside going quiet and the fear of turning around to look out the window for fear of what may be looking in. But that's all from my experiences. Long-winded, I am sure, and there are some things I have left out. I am at work and don't have time to write more than I have, but I hope some of y'all have enjoyed my retelling of my life experiences. That is the end of the story. I do have some input to give or some thoughts. Yes, I do believe that the prior owners were trying to give your grandparents a heads up, because sometimes when we just randomly get a thought in our mind, it might not be ours. It might be our ancestors or a spirit trying to talk to us. And them just randomly checking the wire one day, and then they do, and then everything stops. That just means that they put that thought in their head because they knew that something bad was going to happen. It could have caused a fire or something in the house. And the spirits were trying to give you a warning. And they listened to it, and they replaced it, and then the spirits moved on. It's amazing. Bringing old things inside your house, everything has energy attached to it. So when you own something for a long time and you donate it, it will always have your energy left on it or the previous person's energy on it. And if you lived in a house that was riddled with any type of negativity, you will have a negativity attached to that item. And also spirits. when they feel comfortable with something after they pass away, they will attach to certain items. And so you're bringing in a spirit into your home. That's why when I go to any type of secondhand shop, I'll always hold what I would like to buy in my hand for a little while and see if I get any weird vibes from it. And if I do, I'll put it back. I remember recently I bought this really cute police figurine because we're a law enforcement family, and it was the ceramic police figurines, and they felt okay. But then when I got them home, I just felt a really off feeling about the energy that was coming off of them. And I literally took them back and redonated them. I didn't want to give them away because they were like collectibles, but I just had a weird off vibe about them and got rid of them just in case. And now when I look over in the place that they were, I don't feel that bad feeling anymore. So I think something kind of negative was attached to them or something. But that was my experience. But I hope y'all enjoyed that story. I will see y'all tomorrow on Saturday for Creepypasta Saturday. I love y'all very much. But until then, remember it's scary out there. Please like and subscribe.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross